Hey guys, I'm Tyler with MORRFlate Snail Trail 4x4, NorCal 4x4 Rescue, and we're here today with John Arenz from Rubicon Trail Foundation to talk about some snow wheeling topics. So we have a bunch of videos in this series of videos, and this one today is going to be focusing on survival gear. What do you need to survive out here? Because we don't do that very well as humans. If you want to see some other cool topics such as recovery gear, communications, clothing to wear, we've got those other videos over on the Rubicon Trail Foundation page. Go check them out over at youtube.com. This video though, survival. Snow survival up here in the Rubicon during winter. What kind of stuff do we have here, John? You've got a really cool packaging. You've got some really cool items here. Let's go through a little bit of some of them and talk about them, shall we?
Sure. So some of the stuff I'm going to open, some of them I'm not. Everyone's seen a sleeping bag before. And we can get into sleeping bag tech, but that feels like a whole different episode to me.
Yeah.
So in survival gear, I've got a couple of bags here. First of all, my bags are all waterproof. And that's important because I have an open top vehicle. Even though the sides are covered, water can get in.
Yep.
It's even important otherwise because it's easy for water to get in your gear. And once your gear is wet, it won't keep you warm.
Nope.
So this bag here is all clothing.
Oh, okay.
And it's extra clothing on top of extra clothing on top of extra clothing.
So you've got a bunch of redundant outfits.
There's an extra sweatshirt. There's an extra Gore-Tex jacket. There's 3 pairs of socks. There's a full set of extra liners. Underwear,
Undergarments,
top and
skin
bottom,
layers.
and all those layers.
Okay.
And an extra fleece.
Nice.
Okay.
So are those are important to have a lot of extras with, mainly because stuff gets wet.
Stuff gets wet, and all it takes is one. If you only have one set of clothing, all it takes is one wet day, and you're out of luck.
Yeah.
You're out of luck.
You're out of commission.
You're
really,
out of commission.
You're done.
Yeah, you're done. You're going to do one of two things: freeze to death or get dry.
Yep.
And
cool.
that's all you're going to concentrate on.
Awesome. We go over a lot of the options for clothing in another video, so go ahead and check out the clothing video over at the YouTube page like we talked about. What are some other stuff? You've got some snowshoes here.
Okay, so let's talk about snowshoes. Actually,
this is an item I didn't think about necessarily carrying going out snow wheeling before.
So to me, when you're snow wheeling, you should always have an exit plan. And if you're out wheeling in the summer and you don't have an exit plan and you break an axle or whatever happens,
you can still kind of hike and walk out.
Or you can stay the night in your sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And you're fine.
Yeah.
And if you miss a meal or two, calories are not too important in the summer because you don't need the energy. In the winter, you need to eat to stay warm, and you need to have an exit plan. And your exit plan should be very well thought out ahead of time. You should know that if I'm between this spot in the trail and this spot in the trail, my exit plan is to do X, Y, Z. So if my rig's out of commission and I blow a motor and it's not going anywhere until the summer, I have an exit plan. I know where I'm going. I know how I'm getting there. This is part of my exit plan.
Gotcha.
If I have to walk out in the snow, I want a set of lightweight, well-built shoes ready to rock.
That's a great idea. I mean, after seeing these two, I was like, oh yeah, it makes total sense, but it hadn't really occurred to me before. I get to learn some new stuff. So I'm going to be adding some of these to my snow wheeling stuff.
Okay,
snow wheeling equipment.
That's good. We're learning a lot from each other doing this series.
Yeah.
So the other parts of exit plan to me is built-in shelters. Now, obviously, we're not advocating people go into other people's shelters, but if you exit from the Rubicon and you have a tow vehicle, that's a great shelter.
Yeah.
If you park it full of fuel and need to stay in it 2 days with the heater running, you've got enough fuel to keep yourself warm for 2 days without being dry, without burning calories. You're going to survive. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
So having, to me, I think having a tow rig is not just to get your vehicle, your wheeling vehicle.
It's part of your personal exit strategy.
It's part of my strategy.
Clever. I like it. Okay.
So this is part of the strategy right here. I'm going to put these away. This is another bag. This bag's made by North Face. It's waterproof, and my sleeping bag and my pad are inside of it.
Got to keep those dry.
Got to keep those dry. They
100%.
have to be dry.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Have to be dry. So
what's the importance of a sleeping pad out in snow weather?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
The importance of a sleeping pad year-round is not to keep your back soft on the ground. It's a thermal barrier.
Yep.
So the correct sleeping pad, and let's be really careful, air mattresses are not useful for this.
No.
You need a foam pad designed for sleeping, and it's better if it has air that goes in and out of it so you can compact it down and blow it back up and have the foam expand in it. So there's brands that do that, but when you need loft and you need dead airspace to stay warm. Dead airspace in a down sleeping bag, for example, is made by the down. When you lie on the down, it
compacts.
It compresses, it compacts, and now you don't have any dead airspace underneath you. That pad creates that dead airspace without the sleeping bag.
Gotcha.
So it's a system. Dead airspace underuse the pad, dead airspace overuse the sleeping bag. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I use a little backpacking cot. It packs down to this big, and you can pull it back out and open it, and then you put a sleeping pad on top of that, and it gets you up off of the snow, up off of your cold terrain, and you've got that sleeping pad, which is, again, is your insulating layer, not your comfort layer necessarily, and then your sleeping bag.
Now, have you ever tried to sleep on that cot without a sleeping pad?
I have.
Is it a little cold?
Oh, it's terrifyingly cold. Yes.
It's because
the first couple nights I did that, I was like, this doesn't work at all.
No, but you're right. A cot and a pad and a sleeping bag to me is the perfect camping combination.
Let's talk about sleeping bags really quick. I know people know what they are. What do you want to look for in a sleeping bag? Some of the qualities if we're going to be going snow survival.
Okay, if we're going snow survival, if you talk to backpackers, they're all about lightweight. Now, I'm about lightweight, but not at the expense of functionality. So I like a sleeping bag that's not sewn through, meaning air can't get in through the stitching.
Got it.
So cheap bags, they'll just quilt them, and then the air gets in through the stitching. The better bags have baffles that have insulation inside of them.
Okay.
I like synthetic.
Yep.
And the reason I like synthetic is because if it does get a little damp, it still keeps you warm. And if you've ever seen a wet down bag, it wads up into a wet rag.
Yep.
It's really not useful at all. Does that answer
pretty
your
much
question?
like I'm always tell people, if you're looking at winter recreation, take a 0 degree bag with you. That again is not stitched and synthetic.
Yep.
That's kind of what I just tell people from there. Mummy bag, square bag, whatever your personal preferences are.
I kind of like a modified mummy, something that has more room than a regular mummy, but it's not so big that you
have a lot of excess air.
They have a lot of excess air. That's not good dead airspace, that makes you cold because every time you move, that air moves.
Yep.
So
I like
modified mummy.
I like it. Cool. So yeah, keep these guys waterproof. As soon as that gets wet, no bueno. Your whole trip is done.
That's right.
So from there, what do you got in this bag?
Okay, so this is my. I'm gonna pull these gloves off because I don't need them anymore.
Yeah, it's getting warm.
Yeah, it's time to shed some layers. So this is kind of my little go bag that has all the other things that I think I need to survive that aren't in my, regular stuff.
Okay.
So in this bag, I have MREs. You ever eaten one?
I have not.
They're horrible.
Terrible stuff.
Awful. But they're 5,000 calories.
Ooh, that's good.
So there's 6 of these in here.
Okay.
In this little bag, there's 6 of these. That's enough for 3 people to have 5,000 calories.
Yeah.
A day.
Yeah.
5,000 calories a day is enough to easily survive in a snow situation.
Yeah.
You're going to use 2,000 calories a day staying warm when it's 40 degrees out.
Yeah.
And it goes
down.
It's
a lot of calories.
It's a lot of calories. So I also have.
Is there any? I mean, how long do these last? How long can you just keep them in your? Do you just keep them in your rig, or do you get new ones?
Well, they say they say they're good for 10 years, but I remember when I was a kid. So I was 20. So in the 1980s, people pulling out stuff from World War II and eating it. I'm not
just fine.
recommending it as a day-to-day practice, but they last a long, long time. And the new ones have a built-in heat pack.
Yes.
So you crunch the heat pack and it heats the meal and you eat it hot.
Those are cool. That's what's really neat about the new MREs is that built-in heat pack. You don't have to pull out a stove, a jet boil, whatever it is, and you can heat up your meal right there in your MRE bag.
That's right. And a hot meal puts calories inside of you too.
Yep.
The heat is calories and it warms you up.
Yep, 100%. Another option for kind of meals, I'm a big fan of just anything freeze-dried. So there's Mountain House, anything. There's a bunch of different brands out there making some really tasty freeze-dried meals now that last forever. Just shove them in your rig somewhere and you've got them.
And that's a good survival technique, something you can leave in your rig. If you're relying on wet food that will spoil as a survival technique, you're going to come to the end of it, and you're not going to have it when you need it.
Exactly.
Okay.
What else do we got in here?
We got a jet boil. Anybody who's not familiar with a jet boil, this container right here is a viable stove for boiling water, heating stuff, whatever you got. And it's inside this container is the stove, the gas, and the vessel that you boil in.
That's cool.
And it's good for a couple people.
Yep.
Bag of flares.
That's a good one that I've been meaning to add to my stuff and I have yet to do.
And why do you need a bag of flares?
A couple different options, but mainly a quick and easy way to start a fire.
That's right. They always light. They light underwater. So if you need to light a fire and have a long, hot, sustained flame in order to get your fire going because your wood's wet and you're under the canopy trying to get a little dry wood, and once it's, you can keep adding to it and dry your wood out as you're working. You've got to have something to get it started. So that's what this is about.
Okay.
I also carry fat wood. Have you seen fat wood before?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
So this is just wood that's impregnated with a lot of wax,
Yep.
and you can use it to start a fire very easily. And waterproof matches.
Nice.
And at the bottom there's a tarp and some cord. The tarp and the cord is to put over your tent in a snowstorm.
To keep the snow load from destroying you overnight?
The snow load will slide down the tarp and create piles on either side of you without collapsing your tent. You can always get out and bang on the tarp to move the snow down. You know, if you get out once every 4 hours and bang on the tent, that's enough to keep the snow off the top of your tent.
Nice.
And that's important.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of some other options to have fire starters. You know, cotton balls that are coated in Vaseline. That works really well. Fritos are another great one. There's so much grease in Fritos that they work amazing as fire starters.
That's a new one on me.
That one's cool. I always have a bag of Fritos in my first aid kits. I love, you know, obviously we're going to talk about this in a little bit here, but if you have a chainsaw, you've probably got two-stroke gas. Two-stroke gas goes up very quickly and easily too, so all you need is a lighter, some waterproof matches. There's been some really cool advancements in arc lighters instead of a flame lighter, that all you need to do is have a charged battery and you can create an arc that will light your fires for you too. So lots of different options out there for meals, getting stuff heated for you while you're out there, melting water so you can stay hydrated. Never ever, please people, don't eat snow to stay hydrated. It's always going to be a net loss for you, rather than just heating it up and drinking it.
And that is because of calories.
Yes.
If you eat snow, your body's using its own heat to melt that snow, and you've taken heat out of yourself. It's a terrible idea.
Yep. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about shelters. We mentioned a tarp that you use for snow loads over your tent. Do you have a specific tent you bring with you too, or?
Yeah, I do. I have a two-person Sierra Designs. I mean, there's lots of good brand names. That's just one. 4-season mountaineering tent.
Oh, perfect.
I set it up once every couple of years to remember how to do it, and I try not to set it up if I can avoid it. But if I need to, I have it.
Gotcha. I've known, I carry around a really nice big heavy duty tarp like this one here, that in an emergency you could set up on a ridgepole and have a nice little A-frame tent in an emergency.
I've got those also, but the tent under the tarp is ideal.
That's a great idea. Yeah. What about, I brought out one of these. I carry one of these around in the rig at all times during winter, and it's just a moving blanket.
So it's cheap and easy to deploy, and
cheap, easy to deploy.
Good insulation to sit on, to put over you, whatever.
Exactly. Insulation from the snow and whatever situation you might be in. Let's see. What are these guys here?
That's a space blanket. And they were all the rage a few years ago, maybe during the space race 30 years ago, before my hair was gray. But they actually work really well. They're really Mylar. They're a Mylar foil blanket. They keep heat in and reflect out, they are waterproof, and they are super easy to carry, and you can hand them out. You know, how many are in there? There's like a dozen in there.
This is a pack of 10.
Okay, so there's 10 in there.
Here.
If you have 10 people in your crew and all 10 of them are silly enough to come out without the proper gear, you can hand one of those to everybody. Now everybody's got a poncho.
That's cool.
It's a poncho that's designed to collect heat and hold your heat in.
And retain the heat in for you. Awesome. Let's talk about ways to generate heat.
Ways to generate heat.
Yeah. So there's, I know that there's buddy heaters. Those are one option. There's some drawbacks to those, though, we'll talk about. One of my favorite options for snow camping and snow survival is an electric blanket. We can talk about that.
Now, do you carry a cube to run that?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I carry a lithium-ion battery pack, and it runs the electric blanket all night, and then I recharge it during the day with solar.
You're such a baby.
So it's awesome. And then there's hand warmers as well. I've known those. A lot of people use hand warmers. You don't care to touch on some of those and kind of some of the benefits and drawbacks?
Okay, so the benefits and drawbacks. Let's talk about buddy heaters first. So buddy heaters are propane-based heaters, and they create carbon monoxide, and you have to be. They're very warm. My recommendation, if you're going to use one, is to run it, warm your tent, and shut it off before you go to bed. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in especially if it snows overnight and it creates a well, you're going to find yourself, even if your tent breathes, you're going to find yourself in carbon monoxide's heavier than air. You're going to find yourself sleeping in a carbon monoxide bath.
Gotcha.
But you might not sleep for very long.
Yeah, that's a big one to keep a reminder of is carbon monoxide.
So go ahead and use them. Shut them off before you go to sleep.
Got it.
Without fail.
Cool. Let's see. What is hand warmers? What's good about hand warmers?
So there's two kinds of hand warmers. There's the chemical type where you crush the thing and put it in your hands and put your hands in your pocket. They work great. They're short term. They're a good emergency item to carry. There's hand warmers like battery-based hand warmers like gloves, and that's my choice. And a battery-based glove.
You called me a baby about my electric blanket.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So battery-based gloves typically have 3 settings. They have a super hot to warm you up when you're really like, I'm on the verge of frostbite, I need to warm up now, and then a middle setting that is kind of in between, and then the low setting will last 12 hours and keep your hands from getting cold.
Nice.
And you don't have to limit yourself to using those outside. You can.
Yeah.
There's no reason to be cold if you have an effective solution.
Yeah.
And being cold reduces your chances. Every time you're cold, it reduces your chances of survival.
Yep.
Use your gloves, keep them dry, turn on the hand warmers.
Use the resources you have.
Yep.
I like it. And then my favorite is the electric blanket at nighttime for staying warm.
That's a great tip.
It works great. Ever since I got one, I thought it was silly when I was doing it personally myself, but ever since having it that first night, I think I was up at Spider Lake.
Okay.
And it snowed on us in October.
That'll happen.
And I got up the next morning, I was like, man, I'm toasty. It's kind of nice in here. And then I got out of the tent and I was like, it just snowed everywhere. And I didn't even realize it. I was super toasty warm. It worked awesome. Now I'm a big believer in it.
So thinking about that's not just that blanket, that electric blanket doesn't just keep you warm. It warms the air around you.
It does.
And so now your insulating layers are working better and staying drier.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic idea if you can make it work. And the lithium ion battery technology that we've seen come out in the last 10 years has made it possible.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Very slick.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about this guy over here.
Okay.
As survival gear goes, a lot of people might consider this just a tool.
So it is a tool, but it's also survival gear. It's survival gear because you can, if you're wheeling in the snow, you're wheeling in the winter.
Yes.
There's wind and there's water and there's snow and there's weight. And if you put wind, water, snow, and weight on a tree, it'll fall over.
That's very true. Yeah, trees definitely fall over. I told somebody recently I take my chainsaw with me every trip I go on. And somebody was like, man, that's silly. Why do you want to carry around that weight and everything? And I was like, hey, to each their own. I like it during summertime. Helps you make some campfires during the summer. During the wintertime, it is a necessity.
And a full-size chainsaw these days, a modern, properly built full-size chainsaw these days is 20 pounds or less.
Wow.
So
That's it.
that's a 13-pound head and a 6-pound bar and chain.
Yeah.
We're at 19 pounds, and that's a very powerful chainsaw. It's a 500 still. It'll easily run a 32-inch bar.
Yeah.
So I carry that. I carried a dual can that has oil on one side and gas on the other. I carry it on a rack on the back, so that stuff's not inside my vehicle, stinking up the place and making everything oily.
Yep.
I also carry an extra bar, and it's buried under there. But if you've ever, there's two reasons to carry an extra bar. One is if you had a 36-inch bar on there, it would, when the gates close, it would stick out to here, and I'd be catching it on stuff. So I run it with a 25-inch bar. That does 90% of whatever cutting I need to do. But if I come across a really big tree in my path, that, especially one that's fallen after I've gone in and now I can't get back out.
Say, this is a big part of your exit strategy.
It's a big part of your exit strategy. I can put that 36-inch bar, I can remove that bar, put the 36-inch bar and chain on. It's perfectly capable of running it, and you can get yourself through a big tree.
Yeah.
The other advantage of that is if you cut into something and pinch, which of course you should never do. If
you know what you're doing.
If you have skills, you should never do that, right? Never happens, right?
Never, ever.
If you pinch, you can unbolt the head, bolt the other bar and chain on, and you're back in business. You can cut yourself out.
That's a really good tip. Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of these because, just like you said, you can go into a trail and the trail may be cleared in the winter on your way in.
A little bit of wind.
A little bit of wind. All these trees have snow in them, and it's really wet snow, especially up here in the Rubicon. We get wet Sierra cement, and it brings trees down all day long. And on your way back out, you may not be able to get back out of the trail anymore because trees are coming down, and it's very, very likely to happen in wintertime. That's why I always tell everybody, if you're going to go snow wheeling, this is one of those necessities.
Can I tell a story?
Absolutely, we love stories.
Okay, so it's winter, and I'm headed into Spider Lake. I think it was December. I'm headed into Spider Lake. There's not a lot of snow. There's maybe 2 feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm headed into Spider, and I know Merlin Scott is in there already, and he's in there with a buddy of his, and I'm with my wife Barb, and we're coming in as they go out, and it's windy, and it was. We were overcommitted. We were like, we got to get out from under these trees quickly. So we're buzzing along the trail, and we came to winter camp. And Merlin met us going the other direction. Hey Merlin, how's it going? Oh man, we cut 4 trees to get to here.
Okay.
And we're at winter camp. We cut 4 trees to get to here. They're all back along the trail back that way. I said, yeah, we cut 3 out going this way, so your way should be clear. He's like, yay. And he took off, and I took off, and there were more trees in my way. After
it'd come through and already cleared 4.
And the weak trees had come down. 2 more came down. I had to clear those. Merlin had to clear trees behind me.
Wow.
So is that the smartest thing to do, to go wheeling in a tree storm? Probably not. Probably not. But without the saw, you're stuck in it. So
there's no way out.
Important survival gear.
I like it. A lot of times survival happens at nighttime. Is during the daytime, stuff's lit up, we can see what we're doing. Sometimes it's good temperatures, sometimes not good temperatures. What about during nighttime? What do you do for nighttime, being able to see around what you're doing?
So I have a couple of things I do. First of all, in my day-to-day life, I carry a flashlight in my pocket, so I always have one.
Okay.
I also have two headlights with me.
Okay.
And I don't like rechargeables because they are never charged when you need them.
Okay.
So I'm a battery guy.
All right.
And I like CR123s. The CR123 based headlamps tend to have lots of light at lightweight, and they work when you need them to, and they're easy to change batteries.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of headlamps. I've come across times when you get stuck at nighttime. You need to do recovery, or you break something at nighttime in the snow, and now you need area light. And I've started carrying an area light.
I have an area light as well.
Yeah. So headlamps, area lights. I like rechargeable headlamps, but all of mine are USB-C rechargeable. I try and make sure everything is USB-C recharging, so it's all standardized, the same thing.
Yeah. So 2 sides of a coin. Two different opinions.
Yeah.
Neither one's 100% right or wrong.
Yeah. Yep. I like it. All right, I like it. There's a lot of good information here. There's a ton of survival gear out there in the wild. A lot of different people do different things for survival. There's different terrains to survive in. I'm really curious as to what other people have ideas on. I love getting ideas. There's a lot of really cool ideas I've gotten from you today. about survival gear, but I want to hear some more of your guys' ideas. Drop those ideas down in the comments below the video here. The more information we have, the more ideas we have out there, the more that other people can come up, hang out at the Rubicon Trail during snow, during winter time, and do it safely. So let us know those ideas. We'll share them with everybody as we get them. If you guys want to see other videos in the series about recovery gear, communications, clothing options, go check that out over on our other video series over at Rubicon Trail's YouTube page. So with that, I'm Tyler.
I'm John.
Stay safe out there, everybody, and keep wheeling.